For a lot of people, the concept of hypnosis is mysterious, unknowable, even magical. And to be clear, hypnosis can most definitely feel that way. Even the simplest trance can take you by surprise. One moment you're listening, and the next you're floating, and the next you're back again in the same place you were the whole time. For some people, that mystery is a part of what makes hypnosis work. They want to be whisked away by the words and the feelings without analyzing or thinking about why it's happening. I've heard it said that knowing how hypnosis works can ruin that sense of wonder that helps bypass your unconscious mind and send you into that floaty, drifty place. But I'm reminded of a time a number of years ago when I went to Las Vegas to see a magic show. I don't much like magic shows. They're a little too cheesy and a little too overwrought, but most of all, my brain is wired to find it, well, frustrating not knowing how the trick works. I can sit there and watch the show, but it leaves me distracted, irritated even. I chose this magic show, though, because, among other things, the magicians involved make a point of pulling back the curtain. What that means is that they reveal the mechanics behind some of the tricks that they do, and they do it for a reason. The act of knowing the trick behind the trick doesn't actually reveal the trick. Instead, you can sit and closely watch over and over as they tell you exactly what's happening on the stage and still be unable to replicate it because the mechanics of the trick are not the trick. It's the effort and the showmanship, the practice and the repetition, the effortless ways that sleight of hand, misdirection, and sleight of mind combine to make those mechanics work. You leave knowing more and yet finding the magic all the more magical. And that's why you're here today. You see, the point of this file is not just to hypnotize you, but to pull back that metaphorical curtain on the ways hypnosis works. As you've been listening to my voice, you may have already found yourself getting at least a bit drawn in. And that is because of one of the most basic methods of bringing someone into trance: the idea of expectation. When your mind is expecting a particular outcome, then it will work to make that outcome happen. It's a known element of our psychology and one that hypnotists put to use all the time. When you open this file, you knew you would hear my voice. You knew the point of the file was, in fact, for you to be hypnotized. Indeed, you likely even opened it hoping you'd be hypnotized. And all of those things work in my favor. Because when I talk about trance as a dreamy, magical state, your mind knows it must be time to go into trance now. And when your mind knows that, it starts to make it happen. It didn't matter that what I was saying was hardly an induction at all. That automatic desire to fulfill the expectation of trance started the process on its own. Another powerful hypnotic tool is metaphor, especially through storytelling, which I've been using almost since the start of this file. While the story about the magic show I saw in Las Vegas is certainly a true story about that, it was also a story about you. You sitting or lying there, watching, or rather listening to this show I'm putting on for you. You hearing my words, taking part in the trick that is hypnosis, observing the changes to your thoughts and your body even as I describe the feelings of seeing the trick on stage. Now, Of course, by observing those changes, whether they're gentle or significant, you can't help but recognize that you've already begun to go into trance. What you're also just realizing is that having you observe those changes now causes those changes to happen even more. And that's a tool that hypnotists use often to bring you into deeper trance. Because when you've observed a change, it lets your unconscious mind know clearly that something is happening. And if something is happening, then even more can happen. It gives you permission to feel more. To this point, though, I've focused on techniques that rely on embedded meanings, the hypnotic voice, the use of expectation or anticipation, storytelling and metaphor, and self-observation. They're subtle, though also quite potent. As you think about how they can affect you, we can also take a moment to think about something more plain and direct. Because when I tell you to allow your shoulders to relax now, that feels good. To feel that relaxation move down through your torso and your back, letting all those muscles go loose, that feels good. To feel that feeling spread all the way down through the muscles of your hips and your legs, that feels good. For it to radiate out to your arms and your hands and even down to the tips of your toes, that feels good. There's a reason hypnotists tell you to relax your muscles. It feels good, and when you feel good, you're more likely to do more things that feel good when I ask you to. Your mind associates my voice and doing the things I suggest with feeling good. And knowing that also feels good, right? Because it feels good to feel good, doesn't it? And if doing what I suggest feels good, then doing it more should feel better, right? Then it would be easy for you to just let that relaxation and focus grow more and more now. Isn't that right? When a hypnotist gets you to say yes over and over, it creates a rhythm in your mind that just feels agreeable, right? And even hearing that happen, it still feels easy to just roll with it, right? It's called a yes set, and hypnotists use it to help make a nice, clear path for you to just easily agree with what we say. When you get in the mindset of saying yes, then it's easier to say yes to the next question, and the next one, and the next one after. And the more you keep saying yes in your mind, the more your mind just flows with that idea of yes as a default answer. So, as you can hear, there is a lot that goes into the hypnotist's toolbox. So far, we've covered the hypnotic voice, the use of expectation or anticipation, storytelling and metaphor, self-observation, direct suggestion, progressive relaxation, and yes sets. It's a lot to keep up with, but that's part of the process, I think. The more you listen, the more you learn. The more you learn, the more easily you can let yourself follow my words, forward and down, into deeper focus and concentration. And I wonder if you could imagine what it would feel like now if you were to find yourself in the position of being hypnotized in person. Perhaps that's a memory that's easily accessible for you, no imagination needed, or perhaps it's a fantasy you've played out in your mind more times than you can count. Regardless of exactly how you feel as you imagine that, I can imagine that it feels good, right? Whether you're seeing a hypnotist standing in front of you with some object to draw your focus, or hearing the sound of their voice in your mind as you feel it echoing from one corner to the next, or even feeling their touch on your shoulder, encouraging you to just sink even deeper now. Because you see that act of remembering a time when you were hypnotized before, even if it's more fantasy than memory, is another potent tool hypnotists use. When you recall an experience, your mind tends to relive that experience. And in reliving that experience, it becomes your reality now. Some hypnosis experts even say that the simple act of recalling a previous trance is enough to bring you into trance in the current moment. And if that concept is confusing, well, that's okay. We've talked about so many of the tricks that hypnotists use to bring you into trance that it's surely getting hard to keep track of, between anticipation and direct suggestion, physical relaxation and recalling past trances, storytelling, metaphors, yes sets, self-observation, the hypnotic voice itself. There's just no way your mind can keep up with it all. From voice to expectation, relaxation, direct suggestion, the voice, the yes, the metaphors, the stories, and not forgetting memories, it's all a bit overwhelming. So instead of keeping up with it all, why not just let it all go now? That's right. Let that confusion go, and instead simply focus on here and now. This feeling of trance and this feeling of drifting and this feeling of letting go more and more now. Letting every breath and every word simply focus on that one thought, being in trance now. And as that feeling grows even stronger, you recognize that no matter how much you thought about the ways I was bringing you into trance, no matter how clearly I explained them, they simply weren't as interesting as the feeling they created. This feeling of trance, of letting go, simply sinking and enjoying this moment of just being here, in this place, your mind winding down and your thoughts becoming quiet, and every part of you making room for more trance, more letting go, more all of it. And that's the thing. Just like the magic tricks in that show, seeing how it's done doesn't change the fact that it's still happening. And you can enjoy knowing how true that is for you now. And in a moment, it'll be time to bring you up and out of trance on the count of 5, feeling awake and aware, refreshed and alert, and enjoying your new insights into just how hypnosis works. That view behind the curtain. At 1, finding your way back up slowly, easily. 2, just making your way up a little bit more now, a little bit more awake and aware of the room around you. At 3, just feeling that feeling of wakeness return. At 4, almost all the way back now, letting your energy return. And at 5, eyes open and all the way back.